Okay, when we were doing in O levels organic chemistry, we studied about there were different type of formulas there. Okay, so can you just guide me different type of formulas? We have done the molecular formula. We have done the structural formula, and we have done the empirical formula as well, right? So, any idea about what is an empirical formula? If I say I have ethane, ethene is, if I say that the formula for ethene is C2H4, then its simplest ratio formula will be its empirical formula. That is going to be CH2. So the molecular formula is a formula where all the elements and all the atoms of that element which are existing in the molecule of that compound, they're all together. They are written all together. So that is a molecular formula. And when we have a simplest ratio form of that formula, that we call the empirical formula. Okay. Now, for example, if I take C2H5OH, that's a formula for ethanol. Or I can have it like CH3CH2OH. That is again a structural formula for ethanol. Now, this is not called the molecular formula because here I'm telling that each carbon is bonded by 3 hydrogen. The next carbon is bonded by 2 hydrogen. So when we have a complete displayed structure for ethanol, this is going to be a complete displayed formula for ethanol. Okay, now out of this complete displayed formula, what I did, I tried to make a condensed formula. So this is my condensed structural formula, right? The structural formula that how each atom is bonded with other atoms. Now, when I just write down all the carbon together, all the hydrogen together, and all the oxygen together, I'll be getting the molecular formula for ethanol. So the molecular formula for ethanol is going to be C2 3 plus 2 plus 1, H6 and O. So this is going to be the molecular formula for ethanol. Okay. Now, if I want to write down the simplest ratio form, I cannot cancel out oxygen because oxygen atom is only one. So the same, because I cannot further simplify it. So the same will remain as the empirical formula for ethanol. So the molecular formula for ethanol is C2H6O. The structural formula can be CH3, CH2OH, or we can have a complete displayed formula like this. And the empirical formula, the simple ratio formula, is actually derived from the molecular formula by having a simplest ratio of all the elements atom existing there. So I cannot further simplify it. So empirical formula remains the same as C2H6O. Okay. So this is how we can write down a compound by using different type of formulas. This is a recap of what you have already done in O levels. Am I right?
Yes.
Agreed? Okay. Now, in our O levels, we have been given the data. We have done this that when we were given the masses, okay, when we were given the masses, we were asked to calculate the empirical formula for that particular compound. Now, for example, these were the steps. For example, they have given you the elements that this particular compound has two elements in it. One is, say, copper, and the one is oxygen, and they're giving you the masses of copper and oxygen. So you can easily calculate the ratio, and on the basis of the ratio, you were able to calculate the empirical formula for the compound. So, what used to be the step? The step was copper, the mass which was given to you. You used to divide that by its relative atomic mass. So 3.43 divided by 63.5. We get the, on dividing that, we get the answer as 0.540 here. And oxygen mass divided by its molar mass, you get again, basically, this is actually the moles you're calculating. Now, we used to find out the ratio between the moles of copper and oxygen. There was a ratio 1:1. So we can say that the copper and oxygen, they are existing in this compound in the ratio 1:1. So this is going to be the empirical formula of copper and oxygen whose masses are mentioned here. So that was one way of calculating the empirical formula. The other way of calculating the empirical formula was that they, instead of giving the masses, they used to give us the percentage of the element. Now, if carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen were there, they have given us the percentage of these elements which exist in this particular compound, let's say X, and we need to find out its empirical formula. So, whatever the percentage is, we'll make that the number of elements this compound has, that many columns will make. So, carbon's percentage, we'll write it down, then hydrogen, and then chlorine, and we'll divide them again by the AR's relative atomic mass. On dividing by relative atomic mass, we were actually getting the moles. So we write down the moles for carbon 3.2, hydrogen 4.8, chlorine 1.6. So when we divided these, when we get these moles, then in order to get the ratio, we divided whichever the number is smaller, we divide them by that smaller number in order to get the ratio. So when 3.2 divided by 1.6, we get the answer 2. 4.8 divided by 1.63, 1.6 divided by 1 is 1.6, we get the ratio 1. So we know that the carbon, hydrogen, and chlorine, they exist in the ratio of 2 is to 3 is to 1. So our empirical formula used to be C2H3Cl. So there's no new learning here. We already knew this, and we have been doing this from O levels onward. Whether the elements masses were given to us or the elements percentages were given to us, we easily calculate their ratio in which they are combining together to form that molecule, and we can easily find out the empirical formula. There is no new learning. This is just a recap of what we have done previously. Coming back now, what is the learning objective for us is that if uh, if experimental data is given to you, some experiment is given to you, then through that experimental data, how you going to extract the data to calculate the empirical formula. Okay, so empirical formula terminology we already know is that the simple ratio form of the molecular formula is the empirical formula. We can easily say that the molecular formula is actually empirical formula multiplied n number of times, right? So that's the relation between the molecular formula and empirical formula. Now, our main focus is on what experiments we are going to perform in order to collect the data. Now, this is a part of your unit 3. They give you such questions specifically in unit 3. Unit 3, which is all about practicals. Okay, they are the written question related to the practicals. So this particular experiment you can perform in your labs as well. Now in this they are actually performing an experiment in which they have been given an oxide of copper. Okay, they have been given a copper oxide. Now we know that the copper oxide can be, the copper can have oxidation number as 1. Okay, or it can have also have an oxidation number 2. So if it has an oxidation number 1, then the formula will be Cu2O, and if it has the oxidation number 2, that means 2 plus and O2 negative. So both get cancelled, they will be getting a formula CuO. So both of them are basically copper oxide. The first one is copper 1 oxide and the second one is copper 2 oxide. Anything you need to ask here? And in this experiment they have not told us. They're just saying that they're just taking copper oxide. They are not specifying which copper oxide are they taking. Now through an experiment we need to find out that what the ratio will be. If the ratio of copper and oxygen is 2 is to 1, then the compound will be Cu2O. And if the ratio is 1 is to 1, then the compound or oxide is going to be CuO. So we need to determine experimentally through the ratio that which oxide of copper is it. Okay. Now here the experiment is now in the test tube, in the combustion tube. In fact, normally they take the combustion tube. Now here they have taken a hard tube which can withstand heat. Combustion tubes are basically which are open from both the side, and they have a cork in that. So they are there for to withstand high amount of energy. But here they have taken the test tube. That's perfectly okay. Now let's see what they have. The unknown oxide, the unknown oxide of copper, they are taking a specific mass of that. Okay, they are taking the known mass of the oxide of copper in this particular tube, and what they're doing is they're heating it. Okay, and while they're heating it, they're passing the hydrogen gas or the natural gas, basically the methane, over this heated copper oxide. Fine. Now, the purpose or the intention is that this compound, let me label this compound as X, right? So, this compound X taking hydrogen means this is acting as a reducing agent. So, this reducing agent is actually reducing the copper oxide. Instead of reducing agent, we can also write down H there. So, this reducing agent is going to reduce the copper oxide and it is going to convert into water and is going to give you the copper metal. Okay, so basically what is happening here, the copper oxide, whatever the color, whatever the copper oxide is there, then after the constant heating it is going to reduce in mass. So they will stop the experiment, they will weigh the leftover copper oxide in the test tube, and they will repeat the experiment till they have the constant mass there. Okay, so that is what they're doing. Now let's see what steps they are following. They're taking the known mass of the copper oxide, whatever it is, whether it's copper 1 oxide or 2 oxide in the test tube, and they're going to pass the stream of hydrogen gas through this particular channel, okay, over the heated copper. Now, the gas, which is hydrogen gas, will react with the copper oxide, which is X, and it is going to form after some time, it is going to reduce the copper oxide X to copper and water. Okay, so the color of that solid will also change, but that is not a surety that all the copper oxide has been converted into copper. But still, we have to weigh it, and we will be weighing it multiple times, 2, 3 times, till the time we get the constant mass. We will keep on heating, we'll stop heating, we'll cool it, the test tube will weigh it. If the whatever the weigh we'll get first time, we'll record it. Then we'll again heat it and pass hydrogen and make sure that more reduction take place. We'll stop heating, we'll cool it, we'll weigh it, and we'll record the mass. Again, we'll do the third time and the fourth time till the time we get the constant mass of copper formed after the reduction. Okay, now we have got the mass of, let's say, copper after reduction. We know that our oxide has properly been reduced, completely being reduced. So that means that ensure that now this copper oxide is being converted into copper for sure. Now, when we know the mass of the copper, and initially we have taken the known mass of oxide of copper, this was whatever the, so this was a known mass. So we'll subtract the mass of copper from this in order to get the mass of oxygen there. So we have the mass of copper, the final mass, which is constant now, and we got the mass of an oxygen. When we have the mass of both copper and oxygen, we will now do the computation. So the mass of the copper oxide, which was X, was this much. We, after multiple experiment, when we get the constant mass, okay, when we get the constant mass of copper, that was this. When you subtracted both X and copper, we got the mass of oxygen. So when we have these masses, we will be performing the empirical formula, the steps we were doing it. So after doing all those steps, they got to know that they both are copper and oxygen. They are reacting in the ratio of 1:1. So they found that this copper oxide is CuO. That is basically your copper 2 oxide. Okay, is it clear? So the method is clear. So this kind of questions can come in your unit 3, which is your practical paper, a written practical paper. Am I clear? First through an experiment, we actually we tried to find out the masses of copper and oxygen. We had the initial, look here, what we had initially, we took the known mass of copper oxide, we weighed the mass of copper, we had the mass of X, that was a copper oxide. Then after heating, we got the mass of copper. So we performed the experiment to calculate the mass of copper, which we reduced after passing hydrogen gas through copper oxide. So this was an experiment. Now, once we have the data of copper and we have the data or the mass of oxygen, right? Then we have computed this in order to get the ratio. So this is our calculation part. But to find out the mass of copper and oxygen, we have performed an experiment. All right. So we can get the question where the masses are given to us, and they can simply ask us to calculate the empirical formula, or they can give us the data in the form of the experiment, and we have to find out the mass of the elements which are forming that the compound, the product, uh, in through these steps, and then later on calculate the empirical formula. Okay. Now, coming further, moving ahead. Okay. Now, if there can be a scenario where now there is a substance X. Okay, there is a compound. Now, the compound which is not given to you, it's not known to you, and they said that the compound has sodium. This is the percentage of sodium, and this is the percentage of sulfur. But this compound also has X in it. Okay, the remainder is X. Can you find out the remainder mass of X which is there in the compound? Right? So these are the percentages. So we know that the compound will be, let's say, 100 out of 100%, 29.1 is sodium and sulfur is 40.5. So the remaining will be your percentage of oxygen. So 100 minus, summing up the percentage of sodium and sulfur, you'll subtract it, the remaining is going to be oxygen. When you have the percentage of all, right, you can again perform the same steps in order to find out the ratio. So sodium, sulfur and oxygen we got in the ratio of 2 is to 2 is to 3. So our formula is going to be N2S2O3. So in certain cases they leave one unknown, the percentage of one element unknown. So if you know the percentage of 2, right, you can subtract it from 100 to find out the percentage of the other missing element, another element whose percentage is missing. Okay, fine. Okay, coming to another experiment, one last experiment, and then I'll give you the questions related to it. Now, this is again related to Unit 3. That's your practical paper. Now, here they are giving you, they have performed a combustion reaction. There's an organic compound whose mass is given to you, and they're performing a combustion reaction. And we know that the product of the combustion are, when the complete combustion is taking place, when a complete combustion take place, the products are always carbon dioxide and steam. Okay, now this is true for all the organic compounds. All the organic compound, when they undergo complete combustion, they give you carbon dioxide and they give you steam. Now, the question is given to you that 1.87 grams of organic compound is completely burned. That means it's undergoing a complete combustion to give you carbon dioxide and to give you water. And this is the mass of carbon dioxide and this is the mass of water which has been obtained when this 1.87 grams of organic compound underwent a combustion reaction. So they have given you the masses of the product, the mass of water and mass of the carbon dioxide. And they want you to find out the empirical formula. They want you to find out the empirical formula for this organic compound. Okay. So, uh, carbon dioxide and water is given to you. Now, what you are going to do is, now we know that the carbon dioxide, whatever the carbon dioxide you have is being formed, that is coming from the carbon part of the organic compound, and whatever the hydrogen is being formed, that is coming from the hydrogen part of that compound, and the remaining and you need to find out the oxygen also which is coming from that organic compound. Okay, because we are just getting two products, so that ensures that we have carbon and hydrogen and oxygen also, right? Now here, the masses of carbon you will be calculating. You have been given the mass of carbon dioxide, so this is the mass of the carbon dioxide, and the mass of carbon you will be finding by multiplying it by the AR of carbon divided by the molar mass of carbon dioxide. So this is going to be the mass of carbon you'll be obtaining. So it's basically the mass of carbon dioxide times the relative atomic mass of carbon divided by the molar mass, the MR of carbon dioxide. So when you'll do it, you'll find out the mass of carbon which is present in the carbon dioxide. Okay, same way, in order to find out the mass of hydrogen, what you'll do is mass of water. That's basically, in this case, it's 1.63 times the AR of hydrogen gas, right? And divided by the MR of water, which is basically 18, right? So when you'll do it, you'll get the mass of hydrogen, which is present in the organic compound, right? Now, the two masses, when you add it up, the two masses, these are the two masses which you'll be getting by uh, putting them in this particular formula. We got the mass of carbon, we got the mass of hydrogen. You will sum it up. When you will sum it up, you will get this answer 0.904, whereas they have the compound as 1.87 grams. So definitely there's some other element which is missing. So the another element can be oxygen, because apart from that, we are not getting any other product. So that means only part which is missing, the organic compound, also has oxygen in it. So when you subtract both of them, you'll have the oxygen, right? So the oxygen mass is 0.966 grams. So now you have the mass of carbon, you have the mass of hydrogen, and you have the mass of oxygen. Now, when you have all the three masses, the next step is that you will put them into the three columns and you will find out the ratio. So, whatever the mass you calculated in the previous step of carbon, of hydrogen, and oxygen, you'll divide them by the ARs, the relative atomic mass, and you will have the number of moles there. And then the number of moles, in order to find out the ratio, you will divide them by the smallest value of moles. Okay, so 0.0603 divided by 0.0603, that's the smallest. Same way here as well, and this again by 0.0603, you get the ratio 1 is to 3 is to 1. So that means the carbon is 1, hydrogen is 3, and oxygen is 1. That is going to be the empirical formula we calculated with the data given to us as the product, as the result of the combustion reaction. Okay, is it clear to everyone? If the other elements, and they'll definitely give us the basically they are just this is a part of your syllabus, that they are just going to ask for either the hydrocarbons or the compounds like alcohols where the oxygen is also there. They will not ask the question something where the sulfur is there or chlorine is there, some other element. They are not going to give you any question in that complex form. So basically, only these three elements will be there. Okay, is it clear? Now I
Do,
have, yeah. Anything
do
else,
we need
Hamza?
to, yes, one thing, do we need to like memorize their masses or some,
No, 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 no. They are going to
please?
give you, along with the periodic table will be given to you. Next time in the class, I'll show you the past papers. I'll browse through the past paper. I'll tell you that how the question, the unit one is actually a combination of your MCQs and the theory questions. And the last page of the paper, you have the periodic table. Okay, so you don't have to memorize the ARs. They're already mentioned there in the periodic table, right?
Okay, teacher.
Fine. Now, this is a question. Question number one, you can easily do it. They have given you the percentages. So you will make three columns: calcium, nitrogen, and oxygen. You'll place the percentages: 24.4, nitrogen is 17.1, oxygen is 58.5. Then what you'll do is you'll divide them by the percentages divided by AR. So you'll divide them by AR, which will the values you'll take from the periodic table. So that's 40.1. As far as I remember, this is 14 and this is again 16 something. Now when you divide it, you'll be getting the moles, and then whatever the moles you get, that you will divide by the smallest value of moles in order to get the ratio. So this is how, these are the steps will be you'll be able to do it. Now coming to the question number 2, this is the question number 2 which I explained right now. Okay, now the question number 2 says that, I'm just reading it out and I want you to solve it right now. The combustion analysis of 2.16 grams of organic compound produced 4.3 grams of carbon dioxide and 1.77 grams of water. It is exactly on the same method which we have right now solved. Okay, now I want you people to find out the empirical formula for this compound. Now take a snapshot of this particular question, and I am putting the previous slide so that you can take a help of that previous slide and compute the empirical formula for this organic compound whose combustion analysis is given to you. Take a snapshot, everyone. Taken the snapshot? Yes.
Yes, teacher.
Now I'm scrolling back so that you have an idea, you know how to go about it, right? So mass is given to us, the mass of carbon dioxide according to the question given to us, mass of water is given to us. So whatever the mass of carbon dioxide is given to us, the same mass from that question times 12 divided by the 44, which is a molar mass. So everything will remain constant, only this is going to come from the question which you have taken down. Everything in the second step will remain constant. 2 and 18 will remain constant because hydrogen in water is 2 atoms, right? So this will change according to the question which I have given. You'll find out the mass of carbon and hydrogen. And then from the initial mass of the compound, you will subtract the sum of these two to find out the mass of oxygen. Once you have this, you'll put them in the empirical formula framework, having 3 columns there, and you'll find out the empirical formula. Come on, quickly do it. I'm giving you 2 minutes to solve the answer. Very quickly, start your. Done? I'm talking about the question number 2 specifically. Okay, so here is the answer. So are you getting the answer as calcium and nitrogen and oxygen in the ratio of 1 is to 2 is to 6? So it's CaNO3 whole twice, right? Or you can simply write down CaN2O6. That's the ratio form. Got it, everyone? Now we have one more last question. It's a very simple question. And the question number 3 says that, can you work out the empirical formula of this molecule? This is a complex organic molecule where the carbon and hydrogen are represented. The carbon is in black and the hydrogen is in white. Okay, so they want empirical formula. Empirical formula is the simplest ratio formula. So let's count the number of carbon here: 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this molecule has got 4 carbon. And how many hydrogen? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So it has 10 hydrogen. Let's simplify it. So if we simplify divided by 2, we will be getting the empirical formula as C2H5. So we can say C2H5 2 times will be making my molecular formula, that is C4H10. Okay, so empirical formula is what? Empirical formula is a simple ratio formula of the molecular formula, which is C2H5. I hope I'm clear. So today we have done atom economy and we have done the empirical formula.